Hi everyone, welcome back to Boomx Beauty Beat. My name is Laura. We're talking about, ye old dark circles, and I want to talk to you guys about what works best on your dark circles as far as color is concerned especially. We're going to dive into that, so stay tuned. Look, whether it is lack of sleep, genetics, or stress, under your eyes can often be hard to cover up with makeup. And so we need to figure out what's going to work best on our eyes. And so stay tuned for what I'm going to show you in terms of textures and colors that will really help to mask this. So what color corrector is, it is designed to balance out the discoloration underneath your eyes or in any spots on your face and prep it for your foundation and concealer. So it's meant to be put on your skin. So what I've done is prime my skin with an extra moisturizer here, extreme moisturizer, and primer here. And if you guys don't know, boomxbeauty.com, we have a full line of skin and makeup products, and you're welcome to check that out. And definitely hit me up on a free consultation if you want some help picking out your color corrector, what's going to work best for you, and that's on the website. So how do color correctors work? Basically, color correctors, the principle behind it is that it's about the color wheel, and going opposite in tonality will help to counteract that particular color. So color correctors use complementary colors in order to balance out skin discoloration. They rely on the basics of color theory in order to complement the color that is showing through and use opposite colors that are on the color wheel, canceling each other out. So what you want to do is choose the opposite color of your dark circles to cancel out the discoloration. So typical color correctors are normally yellows and oranges to balance out purple and blue dark circles, normally. So although sometimes I look sick when I'm not, basically this is not a medical problem. It is a combination of genetics for me, and if I am tired or sleepy, they get worse. But if you do notice like a dramatic change under your eyes, you definitely should check in with your doctor, because you never know what it could be. I don't know if there's anything happening with your liver or anything. So make sure you check in with your doctor if you notice that your dark circles are getting way dramatically worse. So orange and yellow are typically the most used colors for coloring the purple, gray, and blue undertones under the eyes. But I have been seeing recently on YouTube and online, playing with some variety of different types of colors. I've obviously seen peach, but more recently I've seen just simply a darker color or matching color to that tone on Smitha Deepak's channel. I will link it below. She's an amazing YouTuber. And she was comparing the difference between using the traditional colors of color correctors and just using a deeper tone in there, and she was finding the similar results. Because I thought, well, that would be an interesting experiment. So I thought, let's just try all the colors out and show you on my eyes what happens to your under eyes when you use the wrong color or use a different tone. So let's roll and do that. I'm going to pop all the colors on my under eyes, and you guys can see sort of what they each do. You guys know from my other video, if you watched it on color correctors, I tried on all of these different types of color correctors and gave you a review of each one. And I will run through those again at the end so you guys can compare some of the tones and things like that. But for now, we'll use mine because I'm familiar with them and I know the texture and what they do, and I wanted to kind of explain why I have them the way that I do. And these are the pump version, just so that you know. I also have a wand version. I'll show you that. They come in this size as well, so that you guys can choose whatever is more convenient for you. I use the pump a lot, but if you just want a smaller one for personal use, it has a doe foot applicator and works really good. Okay, stay tuned to the end of the video so you could see which one I actually end up preferring. So basically what you guys are seeing on my face is a whole collage of both color correctors on under the Boomex line and a whole bunch of other ones collected up with a bunch of other higher end, medium to high end lines. And I'm going to walk you through because I wanted to show you and explain a little more about the colors that we're dealing with. And I obviously have tried a lot, okay? I mean, I'm pretty desperate. You can see by my under eye circles, it's not something that is super fun to live with. So I am trying everything for myself and so that I can relate it to you guys. So let's just get back. So this mint color here is from, obviously from my line. This whole top row here is all color correctors from my line, and this is the color here. Now when you see these green or blue color correctors and you put them on somebody like me with brown, you know, ish, this you could see just by looking at it really clashes with the skin color that I have. Therefore, when you use like a green color corrector on brown, you can see the green, in my opinion, underneath, and we'll rub that in a minute. This next one is kind of like the peachiest of tones. Some people prefer peach color correctors and they can work okay, but I find that it doesn't quite cancel out for me all the way. This is the yellow color corrector, and this, you could see it's very nicely opaque. It does color correct to a certain degree, but I'll show you what I do with the yellow later. Some people do like the yellow on its own, but I do find that I need to add something with that. It's a great, great brightener. The orange is sort of the most heavy duty for color correcting. Well, I call this the salmon color. That is this one here in the line. See it? It's quite bright. For most people with fair skin, this is going to be pretty intense. If you've got, you know, browner skin or Mediterranean skin or more in your deeper tones, this orange could be your best bet. For me, I do use the orange, and I'll show you how I use it in a little bit. And then we're going to go on to this concept. This concept is actually, this is HC125. It's really a deeper concealer, but it technically can be considered a color corrector. Basically, with what this does is it's matching. You can see the darkness here. The idea behind it is it's canceling the color by being complementary and almost like similar in tone. And when I saw Smitha do this on her channel, she was showing how both the orange and the brown did absolutely similar things. And so I wanted to try that, and so we're going to do that in a little bit and see what happens. And finally on this side, it's a little bit deeper of a peach color, and I've got that one on here. Let me just find the color. What happened to it? Oh, sorry. Okay, so a lot of times people are using like a deeper peach. So that's the HC105 in the line. And so I wanted to show you comparables in other lines. I forgot to put the Fenty on. Let me pop that Fenty dot on and I'll show you all of them. All right, so popping on to some of the more well-known color correctors. This color wheel from Les Wattier is super famous. It has been around for forever. And you guys can see the colors in there. So what I wanted to do is just pick out a couple colors just to see. So I wanted to use this tone in my line against the Les Wattier in the Beige Cafe. This is the deepest brownier tone. So you guys can see that, what color that comes out to, and that's right here in the Les Wattier line. And then I wanted to cross-reference that with the Beige Rose in the line, because this is the kind of like the most popular color corrector within this wheel. And that color corrector is supposed to take away the under eye shadows. This color here, just so you guys have it for your reference, is the Beige Peche. This is your corrector, so they're calling the beige the corrector. The Beige Cafe is the neutralizer. The beige color here hides the blue veins and under eye circles. The Beige Natural camouflages, it conceals the redness. And beige rose gives a radiant effect, is what they're saying. Okay, so basically what I've done is I've taken two of these colors. That's the cafe, that's the darker, whoop, this one here, the dark brown color. I actually was having a hard time seeing which one it was because it dried down so much darker. So it goes on a little bit lighter and dries down darker. That is the beige rose. That's this one here, and that's the one that is supposed to have a softening of the under eye shadows in this kind of like rosy tone here. So the brown and the rose are the swatches, so you guys can see. So the consistency of this though, you guys, is really thick. It is thick, and for mature under eyes, I find this very non-forgiving. So that therefore it's not one of my favorites, but I did want you guys to kind of experience the different colors to get a feel for what is out there for color correctors. So I don't recommend this one under mature eyes at all. Maybe if you've got younger eyes, or if you can handle really heavy, thick looking creams under, it would be okay, but it's not okay for under my eyes. Just so you guys have a frame of reference, we all know that Becca is no longer, but this is the under eye corrector. It might be, you know, reinventing itself somehow in the future, but that is the color of it. And I wanted to show it to you guys just for color reference and texture reference. So when you touch it, it's got a real wet, kind of dewy feel, as opposed to this, which is quite dry. So this is really dewy and kind of gooey is the best way to say it. It works okay, but I do find it does do a little bit of creasing on my under eyes. And we're going to continue with more. This is one that I used for quite a while. This is the Clinique. It's the Beyond Perfecting Super Concealer, and this is a corrector. And that one, I'm wondering if you guys can guess where that is on my face. I've got that one, I believe, is right here. And let me just squirt it out so I can show you on my hand. And applying it so you guys can see it going on. It's got a real thin texture to it. It gets a little confusing with all these, but you guys can see it on my hand here. It's this one dot, so you can compare it against the other oranges on the face, and it's a good orange, but it is quite thin, and I find it not opaque enough to cover the kind of doozies that I have under my eyes. So this is good, but it's very thin. You might want to try it if your under eyes are not too difficult to cover. I wonder if you guys can guess where this one is. I put it right here underneath mine because I believe this to be probably one of the most popular under eye correctors. This is the Charlotte Tilbury in medium number 2. So you guys can see basically what they've done with the tone is it's kind of like got an orangey peshy tone to it for canceling. Number 2 is kind of just a little bit deeper than my cheek skin color, but you can see as we get up into my darker under eyes, it would be actually lighter than the darkness under my eyes. So it works not bad. It doesn't pack the Supremo punch. I still get just a little bit of shadow underneath, but it is probably in the top 3. Yeah, for sure. And I'll show you the next. Okay, this one is fairly well known too. This is the Bobbi Brown color corrector in peach, and that's what we have right underneath it here. So you could see, just for reference, the similarities. This one has a little bit more yellow and orange in my opinion, and this is a little bit more peshy. This is the Charlotte Tilbury one, and just for your reference, you can sort of see the tone differences on the color corrector so that you can know maybe what's going to work best up for your eyes. Okay, just a couple more. This is what I said was probably my favorite the last time. It's a real mess, isn't it? I'll just clean that up a little bit. Okay, this medium tan in the Tarte was what I was saying is probably my best. It has a bit more of a thicker consistency, and you guys can see it here in this dot. And looking at it, you see how it doesn't quite dry down. It sort of stays really dewy and wet like that, like creamy. That's fine, but it can get just slightly gummy. But for coverage, this is a little bit more opaque, and you can see for tone, as far as tone is concerned, it's got kind of similar vibes to the Charlotte Tilbury medium, those two tones. So these two tones work fairly good on under my eyes, but yeah, just a little bit with the texture, right? And then let's just go for this kind of bright orange here, which was actually a bit of a mistake on my part. This is the Fenty. It's in the pumpkin color 13. I was going for some orange to try to cancel it out, but this orange is kind of like a burnt brownie orange, and it did not work. It was too intense under my eyes, just for your reference, but just so you can see the color when you're trying to choose for yourself and pick your colors. So I am going to rub some of these in, and then I want to show you what I do, what my final favorite is, so that you guys can see what it does. All right, let's get into rubbing some of these in and showing you what it does. So this has been drying down now for at least a half an hour, I'm sure, but just to show you sort of the texture and, you know, play of movement that you get. But I wanted to show you this, and you could see it going on top of my age spot right there. If you put a green down, and then if you wanted to put foundation or concealer over that, a lot of times I find you can see how it makes your skin look kind of dead, where if you've already got brown and, you know, tones underneath, and you put a green, like a minty color on top of that, how it kind of makes your skin look really, really ashy and dead. So what you want to try to do when you've got that depth is avoid the ash. The ash is a no good. So trying to figure out what's going to work is a little bit of a play. You have to experiment. So going in with this is one of the more peshy tones. What this is going to be good for, guys, is if you've got really, really intense redness. Mint is good to complement redness. So use the green in very sparing amounts. If you've got, say, rosacea or some redness that you need to cover, that will cancel that out. But it does not do well for dark under eye circles. And let's just go into this next tone here. This is the kind of peachiest. This is the HC103 within the line, and that is the code. I will try to you know, list everything for you below. So this is like a really peachy tone here, and it's okay. It does do canceling, but what I find with when I just use the peach is I still get this little bit of, I don't know if you guys can see, this gray undercast underneath it. So while it's good in a pinch to do a real quick corrector job, it isn't like a complete job for me. If you've got very dark under eye circles, it doesn't really do the job. So now going into the yellow, let's show you what the yellow does. Okay, so again, this is sort of dried down, so it's got a little bit of maneuverability even though it is dried down just by dabbling on it. And what I do love about these correctors is you could see, I'm just going to come up close so you can see my wrinkles and stuff. You could see how it's very forgiving and sort of blurs the lines a little bit when I smile. It's so good for that. And when I was figuring out what to do for a color corrector, I really wanted something for mature women who can wear something like this and not feel like it's actually adding to their lines. And I'm concerned about it. I'm sure anybody who's getting lines under there is probably concerned about it as well. And I didn't like when it collected into the lines and got really gummy. And so when I was choosing textures, I wanted something that was thin enough to spread but opaque enough to sit. And I think I achieved that. So while I like the brightening effect of the yellow, I don't like how it doesn't cancel out the very deepest of colors. So as I'll show you what I end up coming up with, this is the orange. The orange does do a really good job of canceling. The canceling power is real, you guys. It really does do a great job. And when I apply layers over top, it does an amazing job. However, I find it doesn't brighten enough. So basically what I do now as my secondary step is I do the orange to cancel. Then I put the yellow to brighten on top of the orange, and then I just kind of give it a minute to settle. And then I get the effects of the cancel and the effects of the brighten, and the two together are amazing for being able to cancel out the shadow that I always get underneath that cast, that ashy cast. And I have no problem with ashiness because both of these colors are so warm. They cancel out the ashiness that the dark creates. Now, in terms of going darker, this is sort of what Smitha was talking about earlier this week on one of her videos, is she was using like a brownie tone and in essence sort of almost matching the darkness. And basically what she claims is it does the same as what the orangier tone does. Personally, again, I find that it does cancel to a certain degree. She's right there, but I find that it doesn't do the additional brightening that I need, so that is a problem. So again, when we go to just the straight kind of like peachy tone that we were talking about a little earlier, but like a brighter peachy tone, I got to get my mirror here so I can see what I'm doing. Again, this tone is sort of more similar to like the really popular colors. I've got this way off the side. Let me just add a little bit in because it's looking sort of dark and faded out. This color works really good as my on top concealer color with if I wanted to like add even an additional bit of pesh. But again, I find I really need the dramatic orange and yellow to cancel me out. Because again, I get just even still, just with the darkness, the dramatic darkness that I have, with cancel color, the peach is okay, but it does still give me that little bit of dark undercast underneath. If you don't have really dramatic under eye dark circles, the peach is probably going to be enough, just going peachier in tone. But for me, again, I need those layers. Let's move on to the other different types of, you know, correctors and so forth. So when we talked about Le Swatches earlier, I was explaining to you guys that I didn't like how it was drying. So this one here is a Le Swatches, that peshy color, and it's like thick. It's hard to move. It's hard to spread, and you guys can see when something is really hard to move and hard to spread like that, if you put that in the delicate under eyes, it really does accentuate them, so I don't love it. So going into this one here, this is the one of the all-time favorites. This is the color corrector in medium. It does a pretty good job, but again, the texture I find to be fairly forgiving. It's hydrating to a certain degree, but again, it's a little bit showing through still, just because the opaqueness isn't quite what I personally need. For most people though, it will probably be enough, but for me, it just, when I put it under here, I get this dark gray cast right underneath my eyes. Again, this is the Le Swatches just showing me blended out. You can see, so in sitting, it's really thick and gummy, and it gets patchy at times. You guys can see when I move it around how it kind of can patch out a little bit, and so for that reason it's not my favorite. So this was super popular, the Becca under eye one, and I do like it for brightening. It is a good brightener, but again, it's very gummy and moist, and sometimes it can settle into lines. So the Becca under eye corrector, that is good, but it's not the ultimate for me. Okay, going into this Fenty one. This Fenty one was quite a nightmare. You guys can see how it dries. It dries down and it's quite patchy. Yeah, it doesn't look nice at all under my eyes. I didn't like it at all. I used it once and once only because it was simply a nightmare. So I don't recommend that one. All right, we're going to go on to the Bobbi Brown one. This is a corrector, and I also had trouble with this, just aging my eyes a little bit underneath. It has more of an, like, you know, a little bit more of orange undertones inside of it, with a little bit of pesh. It's not bad, but I do find that it does like highlight the lines a little bit. So it's up there, but it's not perfect. It's for sure needs maybe a little bit more work. And let's go to the final one. So this final one here is the Clinique one, and that one's the one I told you is a little bit thinner. I'm just going to rub it in so I can show you guys. It is fairly forgiving underneath the eyes. I just have a heck of a time having it cover. Like, I've got a really solid dot right here, but underneath my eyes I find that after it dries down and my natural kind of veins and stuff come through, I can still see, you know, some of my gray cast underneath. And so yeah, it's not the greatest anymore. It was really good at first when I had no color corrector, but over time. And this is the Tarte one. I honestly, you guys, I'm losing track of where I put it, but I'm going to show it to you here again. This is the Tarte one for color correction, and this is the one that I said was my favorite. I'm going to just put this right here in the middle of these two to show you the difference in color. So again, it is got that pesh undertone to it, a little bit peachy orange, like a peachy orange color. And this again is in medium tan, and it does some work for color correction, but I do find that I need just that little bit more, the orange base, then the brightening on top, and then I continue on with my concealer. And so what I would do from here is I would put my foundation on, and that will additionally cover a little bit more. And then on top of that, I would put the concealer, and that would be my final conceal. And yeah, I find that that has been working the absolute best for me as far as like not getting a cast underneath my eyes. And make sure you subscribe, and I'll show you guys a full face and how that all works out for me. But I wanted to go through, I had so many requests. I know there's other color correctors out there. These are just, you know, all of the middle to higher end ones that I have. There's a whole bunch more that I have that are drugstore. If you guys want to see me do comparisons with the drugstore colors, let me know and I can do that. But for now, I am super excited to make this my magic combo, where I've got the orange as my base, the yellow on top to brighten, and then the concealer after I put my foundation on. And I get a pretty, I think, amazing coverage without having to have all of that accentuating in the lines. And as you guys can see, like, no matter what color I put on, even though I put a ton down, when it comes to looking at like the yellow one, for example, you could see it's not collecting in the lines, and I really packed it in. Whereas this one, where I put a streak of the Tarte, it's still really slippery, and it is collecting a little bit more in the lines. And that's important to me. I don't want it to add to my, I know I'm getting older, but I don't want it to add. So I just wanted to give you guys that for some help in case you've got really dark circles like me and you're trying to figure out what to do. So yeah, I would suggest, if it was me, to do something orangier to start with, or orangier peach, and then top that off with something brightening, and then go forward. And you should be able to get rid of that ashy cast. If you've got darker skin tones, deep skin tones, you might just stick with the orange, and then a really nice solid concealer color that's a few, you know, shade or two lighter than your natural skin, to give you a bit of a brightening and a highlight, and that should work fine for you guys. Thanks a lot, you guys. I hope this has been helpful, and I appreciate you so much. Talk to you real soon. Bye for now.